Hello, everyone. This is Greta Bayrami, and today I'm in the city of Boston to have a rootless conversation with Rachid, who is the founder of Bookzdoctor, and he has taken the time to really sit down and not only tell us his story, but tell us how he led to find this incredible company. So, Rachid, thank you so much for sitting down and having this rootless conversation that I'm sure will be impactful to so many people listening.
Thank you so much for inviting me for this, and I look forward to share my story and hopefully inspire so many people to do the same and take a leap of faith and do what they like and what they are passionate about.
Perfect. And I'd like to open it up with the first question. I mean,
Sure.
our name is Rootless. So when we mention the word rootless to you, do you identify something within your journey through life with that word? Does anything come to mind when I mention rootless?
Right. So when I hear rootless, I think of adaptability, right? The more you can adapt to any circumstances in the world, this is where you have the strengths and you build the skill set to build things. Of course, rootless means that you are an entity and you have everything that you need without being on the traditional path or just trying to follow what the society imposes on you. So just having this mindset of rootless by itself is a big power that drives so many things that we do.
And speaking of roots, talk to us about where your roots are from. Where
Right.
does your journey begin?
So I am Lebanese. I was born in Lebanon. I was born in a small village in the mountain. It's called the Ba'atuto. And I come from a modest family. We are five kids. And I went to medical school. I studied physics. And then I decided to come to the United States so I can pursue my dream to become a doctor.
Wow.
And during that journey, the driving force was because I was really curious about the world. So, I wanted to study why we have gravity, why we have sun, and then I wanted to study the brain and medicine.
Wow.
So everything was driven out of curiosity. And then, when I came to the United States, I figured that the world is so big and is so fascinating that even when we do business, it's part of life, and if you can find opportunities and if you can spot opportunities, then, why not? And this is how I started. Then I did my MBA and I started Bookzdoctor.
And how did you start? I mean, it's easy to say it now, but
Right.
how do you really start? How do you really wake up one morning and here you are in a pathway that's already carved out, it's secure? Like you said, you can go to work, you can
Right.
become a practicing physician or doctor. But how do you go from that to
Right.
one day cold turkey saying, I want to do something, I want to create something different?
Right. So I think it all starts by trying to look inside yourself and trying to see what truly life means to you. Right. If life means to you that you have to work in a rat race from 9 to 5, make money and that's it, maybe you should keep doing what you're doing. But if you value freedom, if you value a good quality of life, if you value to bring some changes into people's life and make an impact, then you can start to think outside of the box and say, like, how can I magnify my power or my expertise or my skill set so I can benefit the world in a more meaningful way or in a more efficient way? Not go through the beaten path that everybody tells you. If you have to be successful, then you have to be a doctor. If you have to be successful, then you have to be a lawyer or an engineer. So there is also a fifth pathway, which is, go with your passion, go with your beliefs, and you will figure it out.
And what was those first days like? Those first days when you told yourself, I can do this. I'm going to do this.
Right.
Do you remember the feelings, the turmoil that you were going through?
Yeah, so it's like running a marathon. It's like doing a triathlon, which I just did. You have to endure the pain of uncertainty. In life, there is a spectrum of certainty and of uncertainty. And we keep navigating the spectrum. If you have a stable job, if you have a stable career, maybe you are on the certainty part of the spectrum. But sometimes we all need some uncertainty to spark our life.
Yeah.
And if you have too much uncertainty, then you always think, like, why am I not like all the other people? Why I don't have a basic salary? Why I am not stable? So embracing the pain of uncertainty makes impossible, like, to be unreal, because anything is possible. right? When you are uncertain of anything, then anything can happen.
That's a powerful line right there.
And this is what drives me, because if you are too certain about things, then you are too certain about the outcomes. But if you are too uncertain, then you look at the positive side and you can say in your mind that anything can happen, and you go there.
And is there a few characteristics that you would say you can identify? So if somebody's listening and you say, hey, I'm telling you that if you have this inside of you, you can probably do something unique too. You just got to dig a little deeper than that traditional
Right.
approach that you've been told your whole life. What would you say are some characteristics that stand out?
So if you are curious, if you take the extra step to try to figure out and learn things by yourself, if you are not afraid to ask questions, no matter how very simple the question might be, if you build immunity towards the judgments of all the other people. When I was a kid, I used to stutter a lot during high school, and I was bullied. And I think one of my skill set is I am immune to judgment. Because I've endured a significant part of my childhood.
Wow.
And people were always like laughing at me and imitating me when I used to stutter. And that feeling, I took it, and actually now I don't stutter anymore without the help of any psychologist.
Wow.
And I created my own way of not stuttering, although actually I still stutter, but you don't realize it.
Wow, that's really powerful.
Yeah.
And do you believe that being a doctor led to you being here where you are today, or do you think this would have happened regardless? Or do you think there's a connection for those listening that are trying to understand if they should continue traditional schooling or not?
Right.
Going back, what would you say? Would you say that it was necessary, or would you say, look, this was my pathway, but it could be done with other ways as well?
Look, definitely being a doctor helped me be here today. Learning so much about the human being, the human psychology, the human anatomy, how things are, is definitely, gave me a huge leverage on so many things, and I'm very grateful because I went through this path. But you don't need it. You don't have to become a doctor. You don't have to become an engineer. If you are really curious enough, you can go and you can figure it out. However, if you have the chance, or if you have the endurance to go through an engineering degree, a medical doctor degree, then go for it, because there's so many things that you might not know that are useful, but you are actually going to be useful.
Wow.
in your path. So do what you feel is right, and anything you do in life, you have to learn from it and you have to improve. And this is how you do things out of passion and not out of orders.
And that's such a powerful statement. Let's switch gears a little bit to the passion, to Bookzdoctor.
Right.
What's the very first steps of building a platform, like as to the magnitude of where you are and where you're going? What are those essential first steps to anybody listening that might have similar ideas to build something on the World Wide Web?
So I think the first step is to find a need to build something, right? You have to find an opportunity. And once you find an opportunity, you have to track how can you fill this void. And once you go through the user journey, then you can understand what is needed to be built first, right? So when we started building Bookzdoctor, we found out that most patients struggle a lot to find a doctor who's available. And most patients sometimes really struggle with so much of the mental health, and all what they need is somebody to listen to them. And it was impossible to find this, no matter like if you go online, like it would take so much time, it was so expensive. So what we said is like, okay, first let's try to listen to those patients, let's try to understand their pain, and let's create a program where actually we care about the patients, and we're not here to just prescribe medications, just to follow them day by day, week by week, month by month, until they get better.
And were you leveraging somebody else? Did you bring in people along the way from the very start? To someone listening, they might have a great idea, but like, how do they make it come to life? Like,
right.
How do you establish those? How do you make it come to life? I guess that could be the question there.
You always start doing it yourself first, and then once you have so much work or so many, because it's a need, it's a void, right? So
Right.
you'll have so many things to do, then you start managing other people that can do the same thing that you do, but in a better way.
Right.
Let's say I'm not a coder, right? I'm not a marketing guy, but I know a little bit because I read about it. Now what I can do is to leverage this is I would hire somebody who is expert in marketing or an expert coder that can take this to the next level. And that's how you start slowly learning by yourself, and then you get help. You ask the right questions. You say, okay, if I want to go from A to B, maybe I can read about it, but maybe somebody can take it there way faster, way more efficiently than if I were to do it. And that's how you start building a team. That's how you start building a company. And again, I believe that every company should start from a user-centric approach. If you build a company to make money, that's the wrong approach. If you build a company to build a reputation, that's the wrong approach. Always listen to your customers. They are the ones who's going to tell you what will work and what will not work.
I'm assuming there was a lot of listening.
Right.
Has it shifted a lot since those first early days?
No, actually, I believe that one of the biggest skill anybody can have is just to listen. The biggest jobs out there is all about, to be a coach, to be an executive coach, to be a doctor, to be a lawyer. And those jobs require so much listening.
Yeah.
And I think listening is a big skill that is so much undervalued.
Yeah, you're
so
right.
If you listen actively to somebody, things can change so much. So
wow. And how do you select the ideal physicians to be a part of your platform?
Right. So every physician goes through a background check. We talk to them. We have an interview with them. We introduce them to our vision, to our mission, and we work with them hand in hand so they can apply our way of doing things. Because every physician usually has his own practice or is working in a hospital. So when they work with Bookzdoctor, it's a side job for now.
Okay.
So, but we make sure that the patient always comes first, and we have a 2-week period between the doctor and the patient, so they have 2 weeks to interact before the chat closes, and that's how it works.
So walk us a little bit through that experience, and before you walk us through the experience, I want to ask a follow-up question: that can it be any doctor any place in the world?
Right. So at Bookzdoctor, we have 3 services. We connect doctors to patients, and they can do this connection through 2 types of services. It can be a direct care or it can be a second opinion. A direct care means if you find that you have a symptom and you want to figure out what's happening, then you need to get in touch with a doctor. That doctor should be licensed in where you are right now. For example, now we are in Boston, then that doctor should be licensed in Massachusetts.
Right.
So this is the direct care. So that doctor, you can see him, you can talk to him, he can prescribe medication, or he can tell you exactly what you need to do. Now, let's say you have a symptom, you went to see the doctor, but you're not very convinced.
Okay.
Maybe because the doctor had a language barrier. Or maybe he was super fast and he didn't really take the time to explain things to you the right way. So this is where we offer a second opinion consult. That doctor who takes the second opinion can be anywhere in the world.
Oh, wow.
And so let's say if you're from Albania, you can take a second opinion from a doctor from Albania who might really try to connect with you really well, who will try to listen to you and review actually what has been prescribed to you, and he can give you his opinion.
Is your platform a specialist right now, or are you really? Is there generally it could be anybody, any type of physician, anywhere in the world, or are you really trying to narrow down a specific category?
So we are now focusing on the primary care,
Okay.
but we have the specialist as well, and we do also group care. For example, let's say your primary care physician needs to consult a radiologist, so a radiologist can join the group, and you'll have 2-3 physicians that you are chatting with in the same group, which is really helpful, and the outcomes are really amazing since it's a group care and not only a patient to physician care.
My question to the people that might challenge you: how about those privacy concerns, those legalities of, patients' privacy, and just is that something that you constantly worry about, or is that something that you have solid and that you're one of the best at it, and this is the future.
Look, you can never have anything solid.
True.
It's always a work in progress. However, we are embracing something that is amazing these days. We are embracing the blockchain technology.
Mm-hmm.
So our web app and our app now are on AWS hosted servers. However,
Yeah.
we are working with a big tech company and we are decentralizing
Wow.
our processes. We are going to be announcing very soon big projects about the blockchain, our own blockchain, and this is how things are going to be built. Now, what we do as well is we empower patients. For example, now all our patients will have their medical records hashed on the blockchain and they own it. So nobody can share them, nobody can see them unless the patients approve it. And the other thing is, one big point that we are working on is about rare diseases. Rare diseases, if you met a patient who has a rare disease, usually there is no treatment, truly available, or it's very expensive. And all those clinical trials, all those companies usually try to do clinical trials in rare diseases. So what we're trying to do is connect those two pieces, and if the clinical trial needs a rare disease patient, they will be able to offer this patient an amount of money for him to contribute to science, or to just get the money so he can buy his treatment.
Wow.
So we are empowering the patients in so many ways because, again, our user is the patient, and then we are aligning the incentives of the doctors and the patients, the doctors and the hospitals, so everybody can work hand in hand.
And who is the ideal user? Who would you say is the ideal user? I'm sure you have a certain person in mind when you were creating this. Who was this created for?
It's the patient who is really frustrated about the whole medical care, infrastructure in the United States and in the world. If you are in Albania right now and you see a doctor in Albania, then you come to the United States, will your medical record be transferable here? Probably not.
No.
If you are in Miami and you see a doctor in Miami, and then you come to Boston, you see another doctor in Boston, they're going to repeat the same tests. They're going to repeat everything. So there's so much inefficiencies, and the patients are very tired of this. And having a standardized way of doing medicine that's efficient, fast, accessible, this is our user.
Definitely the future. And costs? Is it something that's covered by insurances currently?
Right. So the doctors that uses our platform, it's for free.
Wow.
They are behind the wheel, so they can put their own prices. And the patients, when they inquire or when they request to speak to a doctor, they can choose to pay through their insurance or through a credit card. And immediately before the consult happens, everything is very transparent. So the doctor cannot charge a huge amount of money because the patient already knows what the doctor is going to charge upfront through a bracket of prices and not a fixed price.
Oh, that's great. I mean, that's really powerful. That in its own is powerful because I think one of the reasons that a lot of people don't seek medical attention sometimes is the unknown of costs. So you're addressing a really big fear there of people that need to see a specialist but don't sometimes because they're afraid that it might not be covered and they don't know the cost. How are you educating the users? We were doing some research and it says that you are constantly also educating the people that use the portal.
Right.
What sort of education are you providing daily to the users on the cloud that you have?
So it depends on what service you are using. So let's say if you have purchased the Mind Hack program, which is the psychology program, we teach you tools on how to deal with any kind of blocks, and we teach you CBT techniques. We don't tell you do those exercises. We tell you why we are telling you to do these exercises, and how they can be helpful to you, and how you can use this whenever you have another block, so you don't use us anymore. Because the psychologist will always feel the need that the patient will come back whenever they feel bad. However, we want to educate everybody to use tools to be independent, to be rootless.
Absolutely, and great on that. This is a very search question because a lot of people build platforms, whether it's for medical, tech, whatever it may be, but they don't know how to bring on an investor. How do you pitch to an investor? It's a question that we ask a lot of our CEOs and founders of companies such as yours. How do you go about that? I mean, it's such an unknown world. There's not much information on the web about it.
Right.
Do you have to know people? Do you have to be sitting at the right bar, at the right venue, at the right networking event? How do you go about? Is there any tip that you can give to anyone listening?
So it depends. It depends on so many things, but let me break it down for you. If you have a great idea that is innovative, that nobody's doing, then probably you will need to make sure that you have a business plan and you can inspire, anybody, even your friends, to believe in you.
Mm-hmm.
If your grandmother believe in you, if your friends believe in you, then probably an investor will believe in you. Okay? Now this is just about an idea. And how to meet the investors? You just go to a bar, you just go to a social event, you go to where truly investors go and hang out. Now the best way to do it is actually to start building something, right? To show that, all right, well, I have an idea and I'm not just talking. I am taking steps and this is my first MVP. And this is how I imagine it's going to work. But in order for me to grow it, I need the money. I need to scale it. Now, this is the second way of doing it. The third way of doing it is to actually, I think this is the best way, is to actually build it, start making profit, be operational, and then tell the investor, well, I am operational. I am truly profitable. These are my numbers. Now I need help to scale and be a rocket company instead of being a normal company.
Yeah, that's powerful right there. So you're saying it might be tough to really get those first 500 users, but you got to do it with everything you got to prove to somebody that you indeed have a profitable, business. I just want to circle back for a minute because this question was really important to a lot of people that were actually doing research in your company. And how do you determine which countries to partner up with? Is there a medical background that you're running, not only on the doctors, but on the country and the way they handle medicine to just make sure that your users are being protected in those communications that they're having?
Right. So we started from the United States because it's one of the most credible country.
Of course.
All the doctors are very well trained. All my friends, have a great training, a great patient experience. And regarding the patients, we try to focus on patients in those countries where they have rare diseases. For example, if you go to the Middle East, we have a lot of blood diseases that are rare. Wow. So the more we recruit people from the Middle East, the more we give them a chance actually to, be able to have a second opinion from a US doctor, especially if they saw their own doctor in their country and they didn't find a solution.
How are you growing the business, you personally, as a CEO?
Right.
Are you vlogging, blogging, making stories, welcoming people in the journey? Right. I mean, it seems like it doesn't matter if you're a Fortune 500 company or if you're just a mom and pop coffee shop. It seems like everybody's using some sort of way today to gain exposure faster to their business. Do you believe in that, and are you doing that for your brand?
Yes, of course. I believe that any company should be part of your life. If I'm here with you having a drink, I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to talk about how truly it is adding value into your life and how it can add value to your friend's life. It's part of everyday talk. And whenever you write something on the internet, you always refer people, you always tell them, hey, what do you think of this? And sometimes, it's not an ego battle, but like it's more of like a questioning, It's always asking the right questions. What do you think of a service that can help you in that way? And they answer you, and then you come, okay, what if you try our service and let me know what you think? So it's always about questioning, asking the right questions, and talking about it. So the more you talk about it, the more people talk about it, the more you'll have more of the awareness of what you're doing. And I think this is very vital for every company.
For sure.
For every employee to be actually a walking billboard if they believe in the company, And I try to aligning people to a certain idea is so important. Because if people are not aligned, then you have something going on. And this is what actually the biggest takeaway from my MBA is to have a very good and a solid culture in your company, Because sometimes you might not have any profit, but people will be working out of passion because they believe in the outcome, for the users. Because if people work just for the money, then probably they're gonna go and work from 9 to 5. But if you convert those people and if you make them work out of passion, out of value, out of vision, then you have a team of lions.
That's powerful stuff. I mean, I'm motivated right now. I'm gonna I'm gonna revisit that. So this is great. And how do you monitor? My next question is a really important question to anybody listening, because we know that as even as doctors or even as just regular citizens of the world or business owners, we hinder our own growth based on measuring progress the wrong way and feeling like failures. How do you measure progress, especially in those hard days, not only of starting your company, but just your journey through becoming a doctor? I'm sure there's a lot of moments where you're like,
100%.
am I doing this right? So what advice would you have to those that sort of stop their own growth due to this idea that they didn't progress enough?
You know, this is actually exactly what we deal with in the Mind Hack program. We turn every failure into a rocket of a huge motivation to keep you going toward your goal. So, you know, it's all about the carrot and the stick, right? You can feel that if you have the stick on your back, then you're a failure and you can stop there. So, if you break it down, what really motivates people? Do you think it's pleasure or it's pain? What do you think?
I don't know. I guess I guess you would expect me to answer pleasure, but
pleasure,
I guess am I supposed to say pain?
Right. So actually, everybody thinks that if you put a carrot in front of someone, then they would work so hard to get the carrot. But actually, if you tell them to avoid the pain, or if they don't do something, this is the pain that they will get. They will be 10 times more motivated. Okay? So this is in behavioral psychology. To be motivated a little bit, you can put a carrot and you can try to follow it. But if you want to be super motivated, you have to look at what is the worst pain I can get if I don't do this. And this is what you'll be motivated. For example, I'm going to give a very simple example that I used to do myself when I was in Miami. I used to wake up every day at 5 a.m., go bike from Brickell to South Beach to look at the sunrise. Now, you can do this for 3-4 times and you would feel good about it. But what is this idea that will make you consistently do this for 4 months, every day? You know? So the idea that I implemented in my mind was that if I don't go see the sunrise, I'm going to have a bad day. So do I really want to have a bad day? No. So let me motivate myself. 1 hour, go make some sports, see a beautiful sunrise and come back. And automatically, regardless of how my day will be, I convince myself that it's going to be a good day.
Wow, that's powerful.
So you motivate yourself by avoiding pain rather than by seeking the pleasure.
Well, that leads me to my next question, which was, what kind of mindset do you hold every day? But I think you already answered that. Right. I'm assuming that your mindset is...
So the mindset is always, be curious, be optimistic, but at the same time, stay realistic about things. And everybody has some bad moments and some negative moments. It's okay, we don't have to be good all the time.
Right.
But whenever you are down, whenever you feel like you are a failure, take some time, think about where you are, and let this failure motivate you to go even further and not be stuck there. Because this is all about the mindset, how to turn a failure into a rocket of the motivation that will propel you toward the next step.
And what about the rootless listener that is afraid of failing for letting down the people that are behind them, right? A lot of rootless listeners might be those people from Lebanon or Albania who have so much of their family always guiding their future. What do you say to those people that need to break free and do what they want to do? Is there any message that you would give them so they don't live necessarily somebody else's dream, but truthfully live their own?
Right. I agree that we live in a world where there's lots that is not fair, right? If you are born in the United States, you are born with so many more resources than if you are born in Africa or in Lebanon or in Albania. Now, but we should not let this injustice or this unfairness be the reason why we're not successful. If we are curious enough If we take idol of people and we trace of what they did and how they did it, I'm sure every country has people who are successful.
Yeah.
And how they made it without anything.
Yeah.
So it all takes lots of motivation, and I understand that so many people might not have the resources that they need, but if they are very well motivated, they will figure it out. It's all about curiosity and trying to break the shell they are in.
What do you think credibility is linked to? If you had to say credibility, especially speaking for you and your brand, what do you think it's linked to? Or what do you think it's going to be linked to?
Right. So actually, we experienced this in our marketing campaign. Credibility is built on trust and built on referrals. If I show you an advertisement right now about any company, it might be attractive. You might go ahead and buy it, which is what everybody does. But if your brother or your sister comes and tell you, hey Greta, I think this product is really good. I heard that my friend tried it. Maybe you should give it a shot. What would you do? You would buy it directly because you have trust. So credibility is about trust. And how do you build trust? Through a conversation. At Bookzdoctor, when we started to sell our programs, our Mind Hack and our Body Hack program, we started just like everybody, through marketing campaigns, on Facebook, on like Instagram, on Twitter. We were, kind of successful. But then we had this credibility issue. We had this trust issue. There are so many companies that are doing the same thing. There are so many physicians during COVID that they were home and they were trying to give their services online. But who do you trust? Why do you go to Dr. A and not Dr. B? Right? So this is where we implemented a conversation marketing strategy. So we had people go out there, talk to those patients, listen to them, understand what they are going through before even paying to be part of our platform.
Wow.
And then after 2 weeks of doing this, then they would feel confident that this is exactly where they need to be and this is the platform that they need to be part of.
So you were taking a longer approach. To switch it up a little bit, what's your time commitment on your business? I know this is a very important question because a lot of people have an unrealistic understanding of entrepreneurship and what it takes to be a founder because social media glorifies it to the max. And sometimes even ourselves, we glorify it. But what's the reality of the work that you're putting to make this come to life?
Look, everybody thinks that entrepreneurship is always about working hard and trying to hustle 24/7, no sleep, 80 hours, a week, and doctors work like that as well. But the fact is that in anything you do in life, you have to do it in a smart way, in an efficient way, so you can avoid burnout.
Right.
We live in a society where the hype of entrepreneurship, of the startup kind of mindset, but it will lead to burnout. And as a physician, I tell them, think, plan ahead, and make your life comes first. And include your project in your life. For example, someday I wake up, I'm so full of energy, I work all day, but it doesn't feel like work, And some days I take days off just to think and brainstorm about what would be the next big idea or the next big approach on how to deal with things. So it depends, but always try to avoid burnout. Try to put yourself first because your health actually is going to influence the health of your company. If you're too tired, if you don't think clearly, if you're burned out, then probably you're going to take some wrong decisions. So
That's important to not be able to make decisions out of frustrations or because you were too tired to review something entirely. Any entrepreneurial advice you disagree with other than this one? Everybody might ask you, what do you agree with? But we like to ask, what do you disagree with? Is there something you see when you're scrolling down, maybe or maybe you're seeing a billboard, or maybe you're scrolling on social media and you see the message and you're like, I would never say this if I was doing this right now. Is there anything you disagree with that maybe someone has told you or you've seen?
Look, again, I have a very curious mindset. So even though I would disagree with what you're doing, I would actually be willing to listen and to see why you're doing it and what were your expectations. Because maybe I would learn something and maybe I would avoid doing it because you did it. doesn't mean that what you're doing is right or wrong, because who am I to judge if I agree with it or not, right?
That's a great answer. We've never had that answer before. The first one that answered it like that. I like it. I love that answer. Has it affected family, friends, the balance, or are you feel like you're pretty balanced with it?
Look,
What's the reality?
look, to be rootless, to have this rootless kind of mindset, you're always gonna have some judgments from your friends that maybe you're not successful. Your family are gonna say, okay, well, he might do way better. Like, why did he choose to go through this path, right? But it's very important to have a support system. And it's very important for those people that are close to you to understand where you are, to understand what you're going through, and to understand actually your goals and your passion. And this is how you build a good support system. And I'm lucky to have parents, to have brothers and friends that support me regardless of the judgment of other people. Like, why would the doctor go and start a company instead of going and working in the hospital and make good amount of money every month? But they understand my approach and they understand my vision. Actually, they believe in me, and those are actually my first investors.
Wow. And would you agree that support system can come from any place? Doesn't have to be family. It can be
Yes.
strangers
Yes.
that become your family.
100%. So family sometimes are actually a block towards your entrepreneurial, especially if they are very conservative and they don't really understand what's going on in your mind. And sometimes people that actually you don't know, they are stranger, but they believe so much in what you do. They went through horrible experiences and they feel you. They see themselves in you. Those are your biggest support system and your biggest fan that you can count on.
Wow.
So
That's powerful. I mean,
there was.
that is all our questions, believe it or not. But I will let you close it. I will give you a person in mind. Maybe there's a young boy or girl in Lebanon listening to this in the near future. What would be your message to them? Maybe they're finding a little struggle in their path and they want it to be rootless. What would you say? What's your message to them?
I would say think about what life means to you. What are your values? Or what would you like your values to be? And how would you like to change the lives of the people around you? Do you want to add a lot of good value to the people around you? Do you want to have a good life just by yourself? You don't want to talk to people? Like, what are your values? What are your goals? And once you do that, once you define your destiny, then you will work for it. And once you work for it, what do I mean by that? It means asking the right question, being curious, and just trying to go fearlessly behind this ideal. Meeting people, going, asking, learning things. You don't have a website? Learn how to build a website. You have never done a sales call? Well, go to a company, tell them I want to be an intern, I want to try to do some sales call. And this is how you build skill sets so you can develop your ideas, so you can start something even though you don't have the resources to do that. So I would say believe in yourself, define your destiny, define the values that you want, and work for it.
Well, there you have it. I don't think anybody could have closed it better. Thank you so much, Rachid, for coming to Boston and sitting with us. I know you're very busy,
Thank you.
but we appreciate your time very much. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Thank you.